The Cheyenne Mountain Complex is a military installation and nuclear bunker located in Colorado Springs, Colorado at the Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station, which hosts the activities of several tenant units. Also located in Colorado Springs is Peterson Air Force Base, where the North American Aerospace Defense Command and United States Northern Command headquarters are located. Overview. Formerly the Center for the United States Space Command in NORAD monitored the airspace of Canada and the United States through a worldwide system for missiles, space systems, and foreign aircraft through its early warning system. Since 2008, NORAD and the United States Space Command have been based at Peterson Air Force Base, and the complex, redesignated as an Air Force station, is used for flight crew training and as a backup command center if required. The military complex has included many units of NORAD, U.S. Space Command, Aerospace Defense Command, Air Force Systems Command, Air Weather Service, and Federal Emergency Management. The complex's communication center is also used by the nearby U.S. Civil Defense Warning Center. The station has an exercise, weights, and cardio gym that is open 24 hours a day. Everything that orbits the Earth, including deep space debris, is monitored by the United States Space Surveillance Network, based in Dahlgren, Virginia, and using ground-based electro-optical deep space surveillance technology, located in New Mexico, Hawaii, and Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. It monitors launched missiles, satellite orbital paths, and aircraft flight paths through its early warning system. National and military leaders are notified of missile attacks, whether incoming intercontinental ballistic missiles or short-range tactical missiles, into North American airspace or in conflict areas, like the countries involved in or impacted by the Gulf War. Defense support programs, early warning and satellite systems report to NORAD and Space Command, located in the Peterson Air Force Base. The DSP satellites use infrared sensors to detect heat emitted from missiles and booster plumes, now fine-tuned to gather information about short-range missiles. Information is then fed to worldwide operations centers and agencies. Facilities. Main chambers. The complex was built under 2,000 feet of granite on 5 acres. 15 three-story buildings are protected from movement by an earthquake or explosion by a system of giant springs that the buildings sit on, and flexible pipe connectors to limit the operational effect of movement. A total of more than 1,000 springs are designed to prevent any of the 15 buildings from shifting more than 1 inch. The complex is the only high-altitude Department of Defense facility certified to be able to sustain an electromagnetic pulse. There is a large quantity of cots for most of the personnel and suites for top brass within the nuclear bunker. Amenities include a medical facility, store, cafeteria, and fitness centers inside and outside the mountain. Blast doors. The bunker is built to deflect a 30-megaton nuclear explosion within 2 kilometers. Within a mountain tunnel are sets of 25-ton blast doors and another for the civil engineering department. The doors were built so that they can always be opened if needed. Should a nuclear blast hit the building, they are designed to withstand a blast wave. There is a network of blast valves with unique filters to capture airborne chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear contaminants. Outdoor structures outside of the military complex include the parking lots and roads, a heliport, and the fire station. Outdoor recreational facilities include Mountain Man Park, picnic areas, a racquetball facility, softball field, sand volleyball court, basketball court, a putting green, and horseshoe area. A military gate limits NORAD road usage from the State Highway 115 interchange. Support area. It has its own power plant, heating and cooling system, and water supply, and it is the job of the 721st Mission Support Group to ensure that there is a 99.999% degree of reliability of its electricity. water, air conditioning, power, and other support systems. The threats, in descending order of likelihood that the complex may face are medical emergencies, natural disasters, civil disorder, a conventional attack, an electromagnetic pulse attack, a cyber or information attack, chemical or biological or radiological attack, an improvised nuclear attack, a limited nuclear attack, or a general nuclear attack. The least likely events are the most hazardous. There is more water produced by mountain springs than the base needs, and a 1.5 million gallon reservoir ensures that even in event of fire, there is enough water to meet the facility's needs. A reservoir of 4.5 million gallons of water is used as a heat sink. There is a massive reservoir for diesel fuel and a huge battery bank with redundant power generators. History, construction and systems installation. The North American Air Defense Command was established and activated at the Ent Air Force Base on September 12, 1957. This command is a binational organization of Canadian and United States Air Defense Command units, in accordance with NORAD agreements first made on May 12, 1958. In the late 1950s, a plan was developed to construct a command and control center in a hardened facility as a Cold War defensive strategy against long-range Soviet bombers, ballistic missiles, and a nuclear attack. The mountain was excavated under the supervision of the Army Corps of Engineers for the construction of the NORAD Combat Operations Center at Cheyenne Mountain beginning on May 18, 1961, by Utah Construction and Mining Company. The Space Defense Center and the Combat Operations Center achieved full operational capability on February 6, 1967. The total cost was $142.4 million. Its systems included a command and control system developed by Burroughs Corporation. The electronics and communications system centralized and automated the instantaneous evaluation of aerospace surveillance data. The Space Defense Center moved from Ent AFB to the complex in 1965. The NORAD Combat Operations Center was fully operational April 20, 1966, and the Space Defense Command's 1st Aerospace Control Squadron moved to Cheyenne Mountain that month. The following systems or commands became operational between May and October 1966. The NORAD Attack Warning System, Combat Operations Command, and Delta I Computer System, which involved recording and monitoring every detected space system. By January 4, 1967, the National Civil Defense Warning Center was in the bunker. Operations and Improvements Air Defense Command Satellite Systems System Development Corporation was contracted to update Air Defense Command satellite information processing systems for $15,850,542 on January 19, 1973. The improvements were primarily to the Space Computational Center's displays and application software, which was updated to provide real-time positioning of orbiting space systems for the NORAD Combat Operations Center. The first phase, which established a system integrator and modernized the communications to a major data processing system, was completed in October 1972. Ballistic Missile Defense Center. The Ballistic Missile Defense Center BW 1.2 release was installed in February 1974. The BMDC was located with the Combat Operations Center in the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, under the command of CONAD. The Safeguard Command and Control System was operated by the commander to communicate warnings, observation data, and attack assessment to the Combat Operations Center and to release nuclear weapons. Combat Operations Center. By 1978, there were 5 operating centers and a command post in the NORAD Combat Operations Center. Space objects were cataloged and tracked by the Space Computational Center. Analysis of intelligence data was performed by the Intelligence Center. Data was consolidated and displayed in the command post by the System Center. Local and global weather patterns were monitored by the Weather Support Unit. Lastly, the NORAD commander's wartime staff was part of the Battle Staff Support Center. Space Defense Operations Center. The Space Defense Operations Center was established on October 1, 1979. It consolidated United States Air Force satellite survivability, space surveillance, and USASAT operations into one wartime space activities hub at the NORAD Cheyenne Mountain Complex. Space surveillance and missile warning functions were performed by the Call Processing Segment using worldwide military command and control systems. Honeywell H6080 computers at the SPADOC Computational Center and NORAD Computer System. A third computer was operational backup for SCC or NCS. The H6080 was found by 1981 to be unable to meet the requirements for timely computations. SPADATS was deactivated about 1980, although some of its logic continued on in Space Defense Center, Space Defense Operations Center systems. Cheyenne Mountain Complex Improvements Program. NORAD had a series of warning and assessment systems that were not fully automated in the Cheyenne Mountain Complex into the 1970s. In 1979, the Cheyenne Mountain Complex Improvements Program 427M system became fully operational. It was a consolidated Cheyenne Mountain upgrade program for command center, space, ballistic missile, and space functions developed using new software technology and for computers with large processing capacity. There were three major segments of the 427M system: the Communication System Segment, NORAD Computer System, and Space Computational Center. The 425L Command and Control System, Display Information Processor, Command Center Processing System, and other hardware were replaced by the NORAD Computer System. The new system was designed to centralize several databases, improve online display capabilities, and consolidate mission warning information processing and transmission. It was intended to have greater reliability and quicker early warning capability. The Command Center Processing System's original UNIV AC-1106, repurposed for mission essential backup capability, was upgraded to the more robust UNIV AC-1142. The 427M system, intended to modernize systems and improve performance, was initially wholly ineffective, and resulted in several failures of the worldwide military command and control system. In 1979 and 1980, there were a few instances when false missile warnings were generated by the Cheyenne Mountain Complex systems. For instance, a computer chip went haywire and issued false missile warnings. This created concern that a nuclear war could be started accidentally, based upon incorrect data. But human intervention analyzed the data and found that it was erroneous. In addition, the systems were updated to identify false alarms. James V. Hartinger of the Air Force stated that his primary responsibility is to provide Washington with what he calls timely, unambiguous, reliable warning that a raid on North America has begun. He explained that there are about 6,700 messages generated on average each hour in 1979 and 1980, and all had been processed without error. An off-site testing facility was established in Colorado Springs by NORAD in late 1979 or early 1980, so that system changes could be tested offline before they were moved into production. Following another failure in 1980, a bad computer chip was updated as well as staff in commander processes for responding to warnings. The Cheyenne Mountain upgrade of November 1988 that consolidated 5 improvement programs was not installed because it was not compatible with other systems at Cheyenne Mountain, and it did not meet the defined specifications according to deficiencies identified during testing. CCPDS replacement, CSS replacement, Granite Sentry upgrade, SCIS, and SPADO-C4. SPADO-C4 was for upgrading the SCC with primary and backup 3090-200J mainframes, and SPADO-C4 Block K achieved IOC in April 1989. The CSSR first element achieved IOC on April 12, 1991, and the 427M system was replaced c. 1992. The CSSR, SCIS, Granite Sentry, CCPDSR, and their interfaces were tested in 1997. Joint Surveillance System. The Joint Surveillance System, developed under an agreement with the Canadian government, became fully operational in 7 region operations control centers on December 23, 1983. The Joint Surveillance System was implemented to replace Semi-Automatic Ground Environment Survivable Communications Integration System in 1986. Congress approved development of the Survivable Communications Integration System to communicate missile warning messages simultaneously over many forms of media, but it was subject to delays and cost overruns. By 1992, the project was projected to be delayed to 1995 and costs projected to increase from $142 million to $234 million. Other systems. By 1992, the U.S. Space Command Space Surveillance Center was the data analysis and tracking center for Baker-Nunn camera images, and Cheyenne Mountain was connected to the Gwen communication site toward Pueblo, Colorado. By 1995, the FPS 129 half-stare radar had been upgraded to relay data to Cheyenne Mountain, and by October 1995, the 1st Command and Control Squadron in the bunker was providing space collision avoidance data to the Cheyenne Mountain Operations Center's Space Control Center. In June 1993, the Cheyenne Mountain Complex Operations Center included the USSPACE and NORAD Command Center, NORAD Air Defense Operations Center, NORAD, USSPACECOM Combined Intelligence Watch Center, USSPACECOM Space Defense Operations Center, USSPACECOM Space Surveillance Center, AFSPACECOM Weather Operations Center, and AFSPACECOM Systems Center. By July 1994, an initiative had begun to collocate the USSPACECOM and NORAD command centers, and in February 1995, the Missile Warning Center at Cheyenne Mountain Air Station was undergoing a $450 million upgrade program as part of Cheyenne Mountain's $1.70 billion renovation package. The Combatant Commanders Integrated Command and Control System program began in 2000 with a Lockheed Martin contract to upgrade all of the mission systems within Cheyenne Mountain, which included the space surveillance systems, for delivery in 2006. The portion of CCIC-2's modernizing attack warning systems within Cheyenne Mountain was to cost more than $700 million from fiscal years 2002-2006, and the delayed CCIC-2's upgrades for space surveillance were superseded by systems for the Joint Space Operations Center's Space C2 program in Integrated Space Situational Awareness Program. By 2003, consoles for the ground-based mid-course defense had been contracted for Cheyenne Mountain, and the planned 18-month Cheyenne Mountain realignment to move command center operations to Peterson AFB was complete by May 13, 2008. On August 3, 2011, a ribbon cutting was held for the January 2010-June 30, 2011 Missile Warning Center renovation funded by USSTRATCOM. Over the years, the installation came to house elements of the North American Aerospace Defense Command, U.S. Strategic Command, U.S. Air Force Space Command and U.S. Northern Command, under what became known as the Cheyenne Mountain Operations Center. Several centers supported the NORAD missions of aerospace warning and aerospace control and provided warning of ballistic missile or air attacks against North America. Peterson and Vandenberg Air Force Bases. On July 28, 2006, the Cheyenne Mountain Directorate was redesignated as the Cheyenne Mountain Division, with the mission to assist in establishing an integrated NORAD and USNORTHCOM command center within the headquarters building at Peterson Air Force Base. The Unified Space Vault and the Space Control Center were moved from Cheyenne Mountain to the Joint Space Operations Center at Vandenberg Air Force Base about October 2007. In 2006, NORAD relocated to a basement in the Peterson No. 2 building at the nearby Peterson AFB. Northern Command and Space Command have also relocated to Peterson Air Force Base. Canadian military defense partners are now also located at Peterson. The complex is maintained by a skeleton crew and no longer operates on a 24/7 basis. The complex is on warm standby, meaning it is only staffed when required. On the 50th anniversary of the NORAD agreement, May 12, 2008, the command center located within Cheyenne Mountain Complex was officially redesignated as the NORAD and USNORTHCOM Alternate Command Center. NORAD Alternate Command since 2002. The complex has been classed as Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station and has been used in crew qualification training, while the former command function has been redesignated as the NORAD and USNORTHCOM Alternate Command Center since 2008. After all the original functions of the complex were removed to Peterson Air Force Base. The complex is maintained by the 721st Mission Support Group, which provides support and maintenance for the NORAD, USNORTHCOM's training, exercise and alternate command center functions. U.S. Strategic Command's Missile Warning Center, Detachment 2 of the 17th Test Squadron, Air Force Technical Applications Center's Research Laboratory. The Defense Intelligence Agency Western Continental United States Regional Service Center. At its peak, the Cheyenne complex had 1,800 to 2,000 personnel. Now only 210 remain, and the site's satellite dishes and antenna masts are now owned and used by commercial communication businesses. In early 2015, a contract was signed with Raytheon to move systems into the complex to shield it from electromagnetic pulse attack, with additional work to be done at Vandenberg and Offutt. Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station is owned and operated by Air Force Space Command. NORAD and USNORTHCOM now use just under 30% of the floor space within the complex and comprise approximately 5% of the daily population at Cheyenne Mountain. The Cheyenne Mountain Complex serves as NORAD and USNORTHCOM's alternate command center and as a training site for crew qualification. Day-to-day crew operations for NORAD and USNORTHCOM typically take place at Peterson Air Force Base.